had to address. She had to address her mother as aunt, or no, or something like that. To distance because the mother was so embarrassed about it. So she's written about it, and she's done a very interesting documentary film, Secret Daughter,
which will continue effectively a thread that LNAH has.
What's that?
That will continue a thread that LNAH has nurtured over some years as we look at race and impacts on race.
I made an outreach this morning to Christine Webb, who wrote The Arrogant Ape, and she talks about the continuity across all life. But she hasn't responded yet. Does anybody have any comments about that?
Oh, we'd be glad to hear from her.
Yeah, she's maybe 45 years old. I'm not sure. But her book is the most dense book I've seen. Dense in terms of really packed with all kinds of good information.
Okay.
She might speak to us. Join us in a meeting.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping. I'm just starting that.
Good initiative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And indeed, generally, if there are thoughts any of us have about speakers, I hesitate to say speakers, participants, bring them forward. Let's consider quite seriously. As we see, I had to miss last week. This thing got banged up, but there was the Secretary of State of Connecticut, for goodness sake.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was good.
A charming speaker.
And now Liz has forwarded more from her. I just took a look this morning. Basically, the lies that Trump tells and his whole administration are seeping down into impacting Connecticut. It sounded like quite a mess, frankly. I didn't sort it all out when I read the news report. Anyway,
I subscribed to her group and mailing list, and I made a donation.
Good show. Good show.
So, yeah, I had a question about that. John, you sent out a solicitation to us to contribute to the Democratic Secretary of State organization. Yeah?
Yes, correct.
Stephanie's organization. Yeah. Okay. So I was charmed by her and thought she was probably a terrific Secretary of State for Connecticut. And also, she's also the head of the Secretary of State's organization and the Democratic Secretary of State's organization.
She's on the executive committee of the National Association of Secretaries of State, and she's the vice chair of the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State.
Got it. So but I thought about it afterward at the moment of thinking about contributing, and I realized that it suddenly hit me that Democratic secretaries of state seems like an oxymoron, because the Secretary of State is supposed to be a nonpartisan technocrat who runs elections and does other state-level clerical functions.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah. So that's the point so what's going on with how Democratic secretaries of state are better than Republican secretaries of state, assuming that the Republicans are not MAGA toadies?
The issue, that's the issue. The DAS actually in 2022 dealt with races in 11 states, all of which were Democratic either incumbents or new folks challenging election deniers who are running
Uh-huh.
on the Republican ticket. This year, they are targeting four states, well, actually 7 states, four with incumbents, all of whom are challenging election deniers as well. So the issue, I mean, they are elected and they are elected by parties. So there is that kind of partisanship in the election. But the issue here is really the integrity of elections with the candidates dealing with people who are genuine election deniers. One of them attended January 6th riot as an oath keeper. So this is very serious possibilities here to avoid. So
I don't doubt the seriousness of it. It bothers me that it seems to me that election denial ought to be a nonpartisan issue. That is to say, all of these conscientious election supervising officials ought to be standing and fighting for election integrity. And why does it have to be a Democratic organization to accomplish that? Is it that really the Republicans are simply so enthralled to the Trump management that they can no longer function in a nonpartisan way?
But there were plenty of Republican secretaries of state who held the line before. Now it's not clear how many would.
Yeah, in an ideal world, Albert, we would have nonpartisan secretaries of state running, and they wouldn't be election deniers.
Yes.
But here we are in the world we live in.
That's what I wanted to hear from you, basically, because when I thought about it on my own, in
No,
ignorance, not knowing what's going on,
no, it's a fair question, Albert.
Yeah.
But I think that what struck me personally here was the specific targeting of states where the opposition were in fact election deniers, and that just struck me as a very serious problem.
And that's outright.
Well, wasn't it the case in 2020 that Trump spoke to the Secretary of State in Georgia and said, "Can't you find me 60,000 votes?"
Yes,
Right.
that's right.
Was that the Secretary of State
Yes,
that he
it was
spoke
the
to?
Secretary of State. He is a Republican. He's not running. He's not running again in
Raffensperger.
2023.
That was Brad
Raffensperger.
Raffensperger, right?
The person who is, I forget their name at the moment, is unfortunately something of an election denier. And so Das has chosen Georgia as one of the 3 states that they think they have a chance of flipping, and doing so to avoid having an election denier be in the post. But the issue that Stephanie was raising is a crazy issue. There was a woman who was undocumented, who has the same last name and the same birth date. Somebody who actually was registered to vote legally. This other person did not register to vote, and so there was absolutely no fraud involved here. But that didn't stop someone from making an elected official in Connecticut from making an accusation, and the woman was threatened, had a threat against her life. So serious
Ooh.
issue.
Yes.
That's a completely bizarre story.
It's certainly bizarre. I don't think you want to base precedent on that
No,
case.
I don't think so. But
Does the name Annie Lee Moss mean anything to anybody?
Say it again.
What?
Annie Lee Moss.
I found this on the web for no, I don't.
No.
So she was called before the McCarthy committee.
Right.
She worked as a clerk in maybe the Defense Department or something like that. And McCarthy started grilling her, or Roy Cohn started grilling her about her communist associations. And it turned out there were 3 other Annie Lee Mosses. And they couldn't figure out which Annie Lee Moss they really wanted.
3 others, David?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 others. Maybe there were 3 at all.
No, I mean, as a half a dozen year serious genealogist, there's a lot of duplicate names out there.
David Allen, I have a question about us. Are we still a podcast or not? Or did we stop being a podcast when Ken stopped?
So it's the technical terms that matter here, but the key thing is that we are now recording. If you noticed,
Yes.
we got a notice at the beginning here. The recording is on, and in fact, Ron Blau, who is off in Truro today with his wife Judy, so can't be here. And of course, spent a life as a producer at public TV, particularly GBH Channel 2 in Boston, set us up with a YouTube channel. And we now have a YouTube channel.
Oh,
It's public. Once we finish here, I'll upload. Last week's has been uploaded, I understand. I haven't had a chance to look
Yes,
at it.
it's already uploaded. I saw. So we have 3 things on the channel, plus a short that Ron Blau did. So we have Nick Freudenberg and Tony Hiss and Stephanie Thomas are all on YouTube.
And week by week,
not many people have looked at it. But
so you've checked. Good.
Yeah, I checked, and it's fine. It's when Ken used to do it, he produced it, and he cut moments that were, he edited it a little bit, not much, but he edited it, and he started off with a little music and.
Why is this being done? I mean, I could see it as a convenience for people like people among us who wanted to attend and couldn't make it. This could be a nice way to catch up. But why are we making this publicly available? Do we think it is of somehow or other of public interest or significance?
And that indeed has been a question from the beginning, Howard. You are going straight to it. And the short answer that has come up over and over again once we've talked about this, thought about it, is that all of Kent's over the years past are public. Why would we break that tradition after all? Indeed, Kent.
I mean, the answer is because we don't see the point.
well, no, the session with the Democratic state secretary from Connecticut is definitely of wider interest. So I think that should be available.
I do wonder, though, if we don't have to be careful about what we say if our words are going to be public.
Of course, we have to be careful.
I mean, is that a reason for not doing it?
Well, I, for one, will not be careful. I like to take responsibility for what I say, and I will deal with anybody.
Right.
I'll say again, anybody who comes along and wants to discuss the matter. I'll do it in a civil manner so long as they're the civil person. Now,
David,
different people take different approaches.
At 84 years of age, I don't really give a damn.
And I might use an even shorter 4-letter word.
Well, I disagree. It puts a lid on what I would be comfortable discussing here. So, for example,
then choose your words carefully. So,
if there was some intimate concern that I wanted advice from peers about, well, now my intimate concern is going to be publicly available. I'm not going to do that.
Well,
Well,
what
Did you
happens
watch
if,
Dr. Fauci taking the fifth 100 times?
yeah,
Course,
I have no problem with opinions
none of
about
us is
Fauci.
likely to face criminal charges as he might, but it's a consideration.
what happens when we're asked if we accept that it's being recorded and we say no? Does that mean that it doesn't get recorded, or does it mean my voice doesn't get recorded?
well,
Means don't get it rid
as a matter of way this has gone, uh, we've been tossing it around what to do and so forth and so on. This question of public and not and so forth. Uh, we're into the next phase, which is the group of us talking about how we feel about this. What do we want to do going forward? And consensus in the end will determine what we do with
Yeah.
it.
David,
But
if I could switch the subject to Michigan, I
please
thought that
do.
one of the things we were going to talk about today. I'm just very curious as what the group thinks as to our chances for the Senate in Michigan, given the win of the first, I guess, Muslim American that is going to be able to run for the Senate in Michigan.
Well, unfortunately, our two Michiganders are not here today. John Woodford has a high school reunion, and I don't know what George is doing. But so I don't think we have anybody who is close to it.
Michiganders.
I want to say that I
I
don't
thought
take
he
for
said
granted.
Meshuggahs.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't take for
That's an old joke.
granted that his opponent would necessarily do better because she's more moderate. Um, he's had a very active campaign. He can recruit a lot of people, a lot of uh, foot soldiers to do canvassing and things like that, which is the main thing that makes a difference in a campaign like that. And if if there are Zionists who oppose him, there are plenty of Muslims in Michigan who might have opposed, who did, in fact, in the presidential election, abstain, stayed away, and might do the same for her. So I just don't, I don't think that it's necessarily, you have to run a good campaign, obviously. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but I don't think he's necessarily more handicapped than she would be.
Jack, it's interesting. I have several friends in Michigan that I talked to who voted for the quote more moderate candidate, although they really wanted Sayed to win.
Uh-huh.
That he has won, I think they will switch their votes.
That's
Well, they
amazing.
probably know better than I. Maybe I shouldn't speak, but
No, this is just anecdotal.
One other thing when we're talking about our public interface is our title is a trip at this point. That we're the last Negroes at Harvard.
Right.
Say that again, Hemp. I didn't quite get it all. Sorry.
I'm not sure about the truth of labeling that this group is last Negroes at Harvard.
Well, you have one.
Yeah, right, right.
And
I'm
on
not
occasion, we have
uncomfortable.
more than one.
Yes.
And after all, the whole point was that they were a minority. They were abjectly a minority when they were in college. So if we have a minority here, we're representative. We've been talking about whether or not we add the word redux. So we become the last Negroes at Harvard Redux, or shortened down LNAH Redux, which might be the most truth in advertising.
I'm not sure what redux means.
Again, next following, and so forth. And indeed, there's a question: what does redux mean?
Well,
I looked on the web, and Kent had a few programs early on where everybody in it was black. There are about 5 people there.
Okay, so a question about this group. Are there any Republicans?
Don't think so. We haven't heard from them if there are.
discussion is more interesting when there are the opposite point of view. Maybe
Well, yes, but the issue was you were saying that we're a representative group, and I question that. I mean, I'm happy to be here, but
Yeah, right.
What are we representing other than ourselves?
Well,
Aging male
ourselves is a pretty,
intellectuals, mostly.
yeah,
we
Apologies
could
to
be some class of people who successfully graduated from Harvard 63.
right.
Well, that doesn't. How many people does that not include?
Let's see.
340 million minus.
I mean, among the class.
No, I think some of our people were not 63. They may have entered in 63, but they didn't graduate in 63.
Uh-huh.
But even among the 1,150 of us, if I remember, from 63, there are a few dozen nominally subscribed here and a dozen or so typically appearing.
Right.
So,
yeah, there's a large mailing list that goes out. I think it's more than a couple of dozen.
It's 45, give or take.
45, yeah.
Oh.
okay.
I'm in
Well,
favor.
it's a problem. I asked John Woodford
Yeah.
to ask Kent if he minded our using this, and I don't know if John followed up, but he said he doubted that he cared very much about it.
That he did. The word I had gotten was that we basically have Kent's blessing to continue. Jeff.
I just wanted to say that I'm comfortable with keeping our historical name, and I also feel like, as Dave Allen does, that I'll take responsibility for what I say. I'm not going to be terribly careful about my statements. I think I'm willing to have my opinions publicly known.
Not to mention, there are not going to be too many people who go look at that YouTube channel.
Right.
We are a group of, give or take, 84-year-olds who, as has already been pointed out, are a quite small slice of even those 1,150 who graduated. Of course, it does drive home the point that we're here because we want to be here, because
Right.
Also, you could have a subpoena to Zoom and bring up all of our stuff anyway.
Well,
and we're under surveillance all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody's more important.
Okay. Well.
So back to Michigan. The question that keeps coming up for us is, what will flip the Senate and the House in the next election? And is it smarter to support so-called moderates? I think that's a misnomer, but anyway, so-called moderates, even if you don't entirely agree with them. And somebody in our group said that in the past. It was a very close election, and I think a lot of people in Michigan did vote for what's her name?
Haley Stevens.
Just because they thought she would win, and of course she had the backing of the Democratic establishment, Schulman and Jeffries and all of that. She also had
$30 million from AIPAC.
Yeah, so the AIPAC became the issue itself, as it has in many other places. So AIPAC has turned out to be a kiss of death for a lot of people, and that's a good thing. But AIPAC is going to take their money over to the Republican Party, presumably.
Well, I think we should be riding the wave of the left. I think the popularity of Mamdani, of Alexandria, and of this new candidate and others indicates that there's a lot of enthusiasm for a more radical approach.
So if we don't, go ahead.
So is it nationwide or just like in places like New York?
And Michigan?
Yeah, see, but
Every
it's
state is unique.
Michigan.
Well, that is the question. That is the whole question. Um, how wide is, quote, this wave?
Well,
You
Trump
know,
and Fox News are routinely referring to everybody on the left now as communists, even if they're establishment Democrats.
Right.
Which
but
is
you
so
know, that was
foolish.
true when Roosevelt was president of the
Yeah,
United States.
yeah.
And the New Deal was taken as communist treason and this and that, and the Republicans rode that for
Right.
many decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Uh,
not only a communist, he was also a Jew because the name must have been originally Rosenfeld.
Yeah.
well, it's like Lelyveld, actually.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I think I don't think we should be making these decisions on this kind of narrow calculation as to who has a slightly better chance of winning. I think we should be supporting the people that whose values and whose statements we believe in. So that
Not
uh,
if they
I'm,
don't have a chance to win. It's a waste of money then.
uh, I don't. We don't know if they don't have a chance to win until they run.
If
No, I don't think so. I think that's what the whole polling and political establishment is all about, is election strategy and figuring out how to
Right.
allocate money. I stopped giving to a bunch of people. I was getting all these appeals, and I made the mistake of contributing a bunch of times. Now I must get 5 texts a day for
Oh,
people asking for more money.
Same
You
here.
know?
yeah,
So
we all.
I regret that one. And what I started doing was, before I gave money to a candidate whose values and statements and policies I approved of, was to start looking into the details of their campaign. Like, did they really need the money? It turns out in several cases, there were people sitting on millions of dollars in campaign funds, but just sending out routine appeals for more. Well, that's not the way I want to allocate my money, even though he's a good guy. I hope he wins.
Yeah.
And
I
so
don't
on.
like to give to election campaigns, although I must say I've already this morning sent a donation to Abdul. Um, but it's as Albert was just saying, it can often be a waste of money, particularly most people give at the end. You know, they wake up to the fact that there's a campaign and they care about it and they want to help out. And, you know, when you get an email the day before the election asking you for one more contribution, you know they're not going to use it wisely. A lot of the money goes for TV ads, which are
Yep.
notoriously ineffective, um, but they're the easiest way to spend the money because usually they have an ad all prepared and they just have to book the time on a television station. I did a small commercial for an organization that I have no official contact with except as a donor, but the Movement Voter Campaign gives money ahead of time to community organizations. Very often, you know, they're often tax deductible because they don't officially support campaigns, but they mobilize people among population groups that they think are going to support a Democratic candidate, and they give the money early because it makes a big difference to these organizations to be able to hire an organizer who they can hire for a whole year or something like that. And I feel confident that the money is better spent than giving it to individual candidates. I mean, I think Albert just said they may have millions of dollars. I remember hearing a few years ago, when Marjorie Taylor Greene was, you know, the bugbear of everybody on the left, loads of people gave money to her opponent who had not the chance of the proverbial snowball in hell to win, but he had $1 million campaign chest.
And as we have seen, Stevens had order of magnitude more money on her side and did not win.
Yeah.
illustrative that in some cases democracy actually works and you can't advise the vote. Jack,
I wouldn't
you
go that far.
you would
Well, the point that Jack just made about what the money is spent on, that's the corrupting influence of. So, the flyers and the TV ads and so on. Once upon a time, when there were elections, people actually made unique speeches about policy matters. That was long, long ago. I remember Adlai Stevenson had
Right.
a book of his speeches, and each one of them, and he used to say that he had been a speechwriter. He actually wrote the speeches himself, which is not very common. But there would be a policy speech on one thing or the other, another. All that's, if it exists at all, is on the website. And you have to go looking for it to see what their positions are. But these little spot advertisements and the flyers and all of that is a waste of money. It's not ineffectual, and it's corrupting to the democratic process.
Jerry?
Just as a point of information, looking at the latest polls for Michigan, even though Sayed is supposed to be hugely behind, it says that his opponent is 0.03% ahead. That's it. In other words, it's a dead heat at this point in time. That's the latest polls from Real Clear Politics.
Oh, he hasn't won.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
No, I think you mean against the Republican, right?
I'm sure, yeah, I'm against the Republican I'm talking about.
I see.
No.
Right.
And those kinds of numbers don't have any significance going forward, as you say, a dead heat when it's that close. And we saw
that kind of number actually is offensive. Quoting a 0.03 of anything with a 5% uncertainty.
That's why I said it's impossible.
But the issue was that the prior poll had him 10 points below.
Yeah.
So
I understand, but the quoting quoting two decimal digits of numerical outcome in this context of 5% uncertainty is just misuse of numbers and statistics. It's misleading.
You also have to look at the fact that Abdul, in the primary polls, the latest polls showed him to be 10 points ahead, and he won by less than 2 points.
He was 15 points ahead in a lot of them. Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm.
We were talking about how to channel your contributions, because we all get lots of requests for money for various campaigns. But I have received a couple of messages from people who offer an analysis where you can best spend your money, which candidates are most likely to win and need your support. I haven't responded to them, but there are such operations within the Democratic Party to select likely candidates, and maybe we should check those out.
Yeah.
Well, theoretically, that's what the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and the Senatorial Campaign, those canonical organizations, umbrella organizations, theoretically are the guys who are the political experts who figure out how to allocate political contributions in the most effective way. But I don't trust them anymore. So I'm not going to give to them. James Carville has some sentimental attachment for me. Ever since his portrayal by Billy Bob Thornton in the movies 30 years ago. But I don't trust him either in terms of giving him money to further allocate to candidates. I don't have an American political organization. Maybe Emily's List. We do give to them. I think I trust them as savvy secondary contributors. And I have a group in Israel that I trust to allocate my contributions, but I don't have one really in America.
What's the group in Israel?
That sounded like a really good organization you were mentioning. Was that called Movement Organization?
Movement Voter Project.
Yeah.
That was something that who here?
I brought that up, yeah.
Yes, Jack.
Voter Project.
Movement Voter Project.
Yeah.
And indeed, I have friends who are involved. They look for indigenous groups, not groups that are going to be live for some election or the other, but groups part of a community, and make this assessment, just as Jack suggested.
Mm-hmm.
So say it again. Movements, what?
Movement
Voter Project.
Now, just now, as we were talking, something appeared on my screen from Abdul El Sayed asking for money.
Yeah, I got one too.
You see our being straightforward in our comments, it pulls it right out. Not being serious about it. So, Jack, you're pointing out the half-life, if I can put it that way, of a contribution.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that I was treasurer for the McGovern campaign in the state of Indiana. This goes back many decades now, of course. McGovern, as you recall, did fireside chats in his cardigan and his pipe and from a fireplace. And I can report to you the $20 bill flew across the transom as a result of that. But that was at the end of the campaign, just driving home your point, Jack.
Yeah.
That it wasn't impactful. It's the early contributions that make a difference.
In that election, 1972, in which McGovern, I think, carried 2 states, Massachusetts and Minnesota.
Yeah, I thought it was one.
With one state, yeah.
Maybe just one, just Massachusetts.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I actually didn't vote for him. I voted for Dr. Spock.
Well, I won't report you, David.
He was my candidate. It was just what Jeff was saying. I agreed entirely with his platform, and I wound up voting for him. And for many years, I did things like that. Only fairly recently have I ever voted for somebody who won.
But
people notice
New York faces the situation that if New York is even close, that the Republican is going to win in the country. And so our vote really is, there's no way to make it effective. Because if the Democratic candidate is a shoo-in in New York, you might as well vote for Nader or whoever the alternative candidate is.
Well, there was an effort to get people to trade their votes. I'll vote for Nader in New York if you'll vote for Obama in Ohio or whatever.
Did people notice Fred Gardner's statements in chat? The last one was the DNC changed the structure so there could never be another McGovern candidacy.
So what do we think?
How did that work?
I think the argument is that starting in South Carolina.
So I don't understand the metaphor. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I think the issue is that they've changed the sequence of primaries, and they're starting in more diverse, that red states. Shame we don't have Bill here today to speak to that.
So that's what a McGovern candidacy is somehow or other inappropriate candidate who can't win.
Well, it gets us back to where Jerry took us, looking at Michigan, but looking forward from Michigan. Uh, can there seriously be a winning Democratic candidate who's got the sorts of views that Al Sayed and the rest of that group, Bernie and AOC and so forth, uh, have a platform for? You were talking about platforms, David. Um, Let me pose a question in that regard. Um, if Trump won by appealing to uh, the white working class because of the terrible privations they face economically, let me put it in the strongest possible terms. How can a Democratic candidate succeed if they don't do that?
Yeah, right. Yes, you have to talk to people's problems.
I meant that to be controversial, not to be
Well,
a settled matter.
well, David, are you saying that you don't think El Sayed is able to do that?
No, what I'm concerned about, personally, what I'm concerned about, I don't know if anyone read the little squib that I attached to the announcement overnight. Uh, if you do, if you go back to it, you'll see the point is that what seems to be driving elections is the 90% of the country who can't make a living anymore. I mean, it's humongous. We got 340 million inhabitants, and 90% of them are paycheck to paycheck, if not living on the street. And Trump, it seems pretty clear, got elected certainly the second time, but actually the first time as well by appealing to this group. He's not serving that group. That's a separate matter. He's utterly failing, of course, to actually serve them. But the point is, his appeal was to people who are being crushed by this maldistribution of wealth. And surely that is the driving force across America today. Don't those of us on this side of things find it absolutely necessary to go from there instead of from any other starting place? And of course, the point is, go ahead. Who's going to say something?
David, I would like to see the statistics and the analysis done better. I do think that a lot of people who are not doing well are concerned, but I think there's an awful lot more to this than just economics. I mean, I think if somebody said, "Okay, we're going to give you a job and we're going to pay you, $35 an hour, 40 hours a week," that's one thing. But I think, and I don't know if the statistics back me up on this, but I think there's an awful lot of othering going on here. Call it racial, call it, other people and so on. I just think there's an awful lot of blame on the goddamn immigrants, the people who are taking our jobs and all this sort of stuff. I don't think it's rational that there are ways of improving your financial lot. People, I don't think really most of the time go for their whatever's best for them financially. I think there's a lot more to it. And I think a lot of it is just, we don't like those sons of bitches.
You think Carville's not right that it's the economy stupid?
Of course, yeah, I think he's got some problems with that.
Carville is threatening to leave the Democratic Party recently, I see. I personally, I absolutely agree with you, Alden, that if you get down to the little piece that I offered you, discover and say, yeah, there is this other issue about, I call it making tribes, however you want to describe it. And what strikes me is the importance of separating these analytically. Yeah, they are definitely both driving, there's no question. But I don't have answers. I hope I'm going to spur some.
Well, Mamdani kept saying that he attracted people who had voted for Trump. And I don't know if anybody did real investigations of that, but that he would speak to people who voted for Trump because Trump understood the pressures they were under economically, and then they voted for Zoran Mamdani. And when Mamdani went to see Trump, they seemed to hit it off, that they were on the same wavelength in some way about the resentment of ordinary people against the establishment. Obviously, Trump is completely fraudulent about that, but there is this appeal to people who are concerned about the price of groceries and the price of and the paycheck to paycheck thing that people talk about. It's not poverty so much, but it is the economic pressure that people feel.
A crucial point that it actually is above the poverty line. It still doesn't work economically in this economy.
I'm sure both things are true, and sometimes in the same people, but not necessarily. But one lesson of that is that the people who voted for Trump because they felt their economic and that he would defend their economic interests have certainly gotten screwed by the result. And if there are still people who believe that, somebody's doing a piss poor job of explaining to them what is the effect of Trump's policies. I mean, he has certainly not done anything to improve the economic situation of the people living paycheck to paycheck. And the Democrats, of course, well, Biden actually did some things. He didn't go do a good job of selling it, but the income distribution became somewhat more compressed under his presidency, mainly because of COVID, subsidies. But somehow people didn't see that.
If a random group of 100 people was watching us, I wonder what percentage of them would consider we were establishment.
We are.
I think so.
Probably 100%. Went to the wrong college.
I mean, Harvard graduates, for Christ's sake.
Well, as I said to David in a private communication, we're all class enemies. Yeah.
Which makes the thrust of our discussion intriguing here. Let's put it that way. I go back to where Jerry started us on Michigan. Here, El Sayed is going to be the candidate in a quote purple state. You could characterize the situation this way, that the establishment in the Democratic Party, the minority leader in the Senate, New York Senator, and so forth, have got a vested interest in maintaining the status quo, frankly, of this great divide economically in the country. That's a pretty strong, harsh statement, but I think it's true. They, of course, amongst others, help fund the opposition to El Sayed. As we already said, the order of magnitude more funds, and yet his populist view succeeded. Can that populist view succeed? And among other things, reform the Democratic Party so it no longer wants to support the existing unworkable economic structure.
Well, David, I think it's very important for us, just as a matter of our own personal dignity, to support the values and the statements that we believe in, even if we don't if our candidate doesn't seem to have a chance to win, well, I think we have to support the people we believe in. I don't know. I've been doing a lot of research about on the Weimar Republic and how that finally crashed, and the fate of those Germans who were trying to defend a democratic order and against enormous uh, difficulties. So, you know, just for our own self-respect, we we have to, I think, support the things that we think are right. I was very much impressed by Slavoj Žižek. Uh, and I'm really ready to join him. He's calling himself a communist, but he's making it very clear that what he's talking about is communism as described by Marx and Engels, by Rosa Luxemburg, by people who really had a libertarian notion of communism, but that facing the kinds of crises that we are now, the climate crisis among them, is going to require great coordination among people of different nationalities, and which was really the essence of the communist appeal to in the days of the Paris Commune and thereafter.
Who is the person
Jeffrey,
talking about, Jeffrey?
what about going back to the Weimar Republic and the pre-Hitler period? What about the divisions between the communists and the socialists and their inability to work together?
Yes, yeah, that was terrible. And while at Harvard, I got very close to I don't know, some of you knew him, Fritz Pappenheim. He was a socialist, um, and but he was sort of like a left socialist. Um, and yes, the Communist Party, and I think Zizek's notion and mine, and the kind of communism we support was not Stalinism. And Stalin imposed upon the German Communist Party a very rigid um, doctrine, which was mainly aimed at defending his power in the Soviet Union, and with much less regard for correcting problems in Germany or anywhere else in Europe. So,
Germany or Russia?
what?
Germany or Russia? I think you meant Russia when you talk about Stalin.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Well, obviously, Stalin was making his orders to the German Communist Party were mainly an instrument of Soviet foreign policy. So that and then of course when the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, uh, the so many of the communists felt betrayed, and well, it's an awful history. A lot of the communists, some of them fled to the Soviet Union, where they were executed, or some of them were turned over to the Germans. I mean, it was uh, it was a terrible plight for people who had started out with very idealistic notion of the kind of society they wanted to create, and but okay, but I think it's worthwhile trying to rescue the fundamental notions of what communism meant when historically, in the beginning, when it was first launched, of course, in the manifesto in 1847, um, and the follow through. The novel I'm writing now, the protagonist is a young man who in the German Imperial Navy, who is part of that enormous mutiny that actually ended World War One. The mutiny in Kiel that spread to revolutionary movements in the army and in Navy bases across the country, and forced the Kaiser to abdicate, and brought about a ceasefire and the end of the war in just a matter of days, in about a week and a half. But anyway, such people, some of them, remained very serious communists of a notion of communism that they later felt was being betrayed by the policies directed by the Soviet Union. So anyway, but it's a complicated story, of course.
As you have described before, Jeff, I think we will be looking forward to getting that in a form we can get our own hands on. What you're pointing us at pretty clearly is a broad question, which is what values, and of course it's going to differ from one of us to the other, but what values would we ideally like to see if we could move the country in a particular direction? We haven't asked ourselves that question here. It lies behind each of our choices at the same time as to what would be a good tactic, who's the right candidate. Do we want Medicare for all? Do we want, I could go down the list.
Yeah.
Tax wealth.
Tax the wealth. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that would be
rich.
We've got 1 minute left today, so I don't think we're going to answer that question. Maybe next week.
Okay. Well, it's been fun, and thanks for organizing this, and thank you for the note which I just now read that you attached to the call. That your little I think your introductory essay laid out the problems very clearly. So thanks.
The important thing is our chewing on it and seeing if we have a path forward. I think there's a real question about whether El Sayed can be elected in Michigan, and we need that seat. It's crucial to turn things back on Trump. Let's have that as an opening question for next week. We'll see whether or not we perhaps slot somebody in there as well.
Okay, thanks.
Good to see you all.
Continue.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, David.
Bye.
All right. Here we go. Next week.
Okay.
Uh,